Welcome to Town Talk, the official podcast of Summerville, South Carolina, where we bring you the latest news and incredible guest here in Summerville. And I'm super pumped because we've been talking about this for a while. But today I have Andrew Price with me. He's the executive director of the Summerville Orchestra. And we've been talking about bringing you onto the podcast. But Andrew, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, we've met back and forth over the years, and we talked about this. And now I'm excited that we were finally able to schedule this. I think it's a perfect time for this conversation too. And you guys will learn. But there's a lot of good stuff coming up.
Absolutely.
But Andrew, before we kind of dig into all that fun stuff, you're the executive director of Summerville Orchestra. How did you end up here?
I ask myself that every day. I've always, had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in me. I grew up in the northwestern part of South Carolina. Started playing the bass at 10 years old. So I've been playing for a little over 20 years at this point, but always had that musical side. But at the same time, a buddy of mine and I were running a small business, if you will, at the age of 12, 13 in the neighborhood, doing dog walking, car washing, the whole 9 yards. So that's always been in my head, and I've always had this kind of creativity, the creative spirit, but also this entrepreneurial spirit as well. And so I got my undergrad in music education, was teaching. I taught for 5.5 years, and then I got my master's degree in arts leadership and cultural management. I didn't know if I wanted to go into educational administration or arts administration, so I went into arts admin, but I have a certification to be a principal.
Oh, wow.
So it's one of those things that just kind of works out. But going back to the timing's kind of everything with this. I was and for the Summerville Orchestra, we have a musicians board, and part of the kind of the presidency of that musicians board is that they get to be on the board of directors. And that's kind of where I was at with playing with the group for about 5-6 years at the time. So I was on the board of directors at the time, and my predecessor decided to step down, and so then it became, we have this executive director position open, and so I was thinking about it, and I just kind of told my board, I said, look, I'd be interested, but I want to do the applying process and want to go through it, and turned out January of 22, I signed an agreement, and so I've been here since, and I've loved it. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I think you've done great things for the Summerville Orchestra and our community. So I applaud you for the work you've done, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. But I'm curious, what got you into music when you were a little boy? What was it?
A little boy is probably not the most accurate. So
really?
I was actually 6 feet tall in 5th grade. And so I remember we had a morning strings class at our elementary school. Yeah. And I told my parents, I said, I want to play the biggest instrument because I'm the tallest kid, right? And I remember my music teacher at the time, which she was my music teacher from 5th grade all the way to senior year of high school. She looked up at me at 5th grade. She looked up and she said, "You're going to play the bass." And I said, "I'm going to play the bass." And that's kind of what happened since. I had a lot of excuse me, I had a lot of natural talent, even though I don't necessarily believe in natural talent. I mean, being a big kid playing a big instrument helps to your advantage, right? But I found out very quickly in high school that it actually takes work and effort and energy and dedicated time to be good at it. And so it wasn't until high school that I really started honing in on bass playing and getting really good at it. Yeah,
that's cool. I love that. Just a FYI, it is pollen season. I know you're probably going to cough. I'm going to cough. So just FYI, we're all doing it. So we're going to try our best to keep it out of the mic for you, all right? But because I felt one coming too, so I had to say it. No, that's really cool. So it kind of is like, I'm a big guy. I want to play the big instrument. Yeah. Kind of fit, and then the rest is history, right? That's so cool. I'm a huge music guy myself. I basically grew up doing, not really playing instruments, but singing and show, doing shows. Nice. What was I in? I was in, this is knowledge for the podcast listeners too. They don't know this stuff. I was in Sweeney Todd.
Nice.
I was in Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
Phantom of Opera. Nice. Not a lot of people know this about me.
Wow.
But
there we go. See, I got the information out for y'all from him.
Not a lot of people know that.
It's such a different art form, though. I mean, it's so, and I have so much respect for people that are in musicals and plays and shows. It's just, it takes so much effort. So, I'm
retired. I'm retired.
Well done. So,
the last time I did anything like that was in college, and that was for this Charleston Southern choir.
Yeah.
I have not done anything since. I don't know if I anticipate. It was fun.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, but I'm just too busy now.
I hear you on that. I was, when I was growing up, especially early middle school time, I remember doing a lot of summer camps actually in theater. Mm-hmm. And so, and I don't remember what happened or why I stopped or anything like that, but we recently did that Flowertown Review, which was a joint collaboration with the Summerville Dream, Flowertown Theater, and the Summerville Orchestra. And shout out to Amy Pellegrini who put all that together. But we were going through that, and there was this one part where it's all based off of "Swinging on a Star" was the tune, and it was based in the 1940s. And the play with it, the act with it, was that there was these three children, and the teacher was singing "Would you like to swing on a star?" And I just remember saying, I could fit that role really well as this really tall guy with a beard playing a little child, being, just kind of silly and, that charismatic way of it. Right. And so that was the first time I've acted in years. So don't say you're retired yet, because something might come up where you're like, I could probably do that for, a couple lines and I'll be all right.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? I guess the one I was most known for, I forgot to say this because I wasn't going to say it, but I guess I'll say it. I played Miss Trunchbull from Matilda.
Yeah.
I rocked that role, though.
That's awesome.
I played a good Miss Trunchbull. I remember that, but man, nowadays it seems so far gone. But I could still remember those lines and those pieces. But music is such an art form, and I love orchestra. I love the art behind music, especially in an orchestra format. It's so unique. I know our community does too, which leads me into, let's talk about the orchestra.
Sure.
Right? So give us a little history on the orchestra, because I mean, I have a basic knowledge, but I think not just me, but our listeners and watchers, there's a lot to learn about the history of the orchestra in Summerville. So could you give us a little deep dive on that?
Absolutely. So I mean, coming into the group, it was one thing when I was playing, but it was a whole nother thing being on the board and learning about it, and then going into the executive director role was just another step of that historical component of it. So basic nutshell, 2003, a lovely lady by the name of Betty Settle came into town. Excuse me. She came into town, was wanting to, was a previous violinist, but kind of gave it up the gig for a while. Yeah. She was working with she heard with this other group that was actually the founders of Singers of Summerville as well.
Oh,
and so there was this group of ladies who were coming together. They were trying to, get more art into the town of Summerville. And so Betty, who still plays with us, by the way, Betty came in and she said, well, what about an orchestra? And everybody was like, I don't know about that, all that. And she said, well, I'll just go make one then. And so she went and worked with, she went and got about 15 different people and a conductor. And that was the first time they rehearsed together. And they rehearsed together in the fall of 2003, put on a show in the spring of 2004. And ever since then, it's been growing. So it's the orchestra is a volunteer orchestra. It's a community orchestra.
Yeah.
We have volunteers that come from Manning, South Carolina. We have volunteers who come from Seabrook Island that come to rehearse every Monday. So when I tell you that these are the most dedicated volunteers, I truly mean time, effort, energy is spent.
And what time on Monday?
So they go 7 to 9:30 on Monday rehearsals.
So if they're they're traveling and
they're traveling in the traffic. Yes, but they do it every Monday and they love it. And so the orchestra is now a full 75-person orchestra. We perform everything from Sound of Music to Shostakovich 5, which is what we're doing this weekend. So we've got a little bit of everything that we like to program, a little bit of everything. But what we've found is that our niche with our audience is actually more unheard of and relatively new works. And our audience, we've done this really well strategically, where we introduce something that's maybe a little unfamiliar. And then over time, we've gone more and more into that realm. With our most recent piece in February being the Ned Rorum's Lions, which is it's a dreaming sequence, and it's this vision of Rorum having a dream about essentially, just life and chaos and everything that's ensued in it.
Yeah.
And so the piece has these very dissonant tones, dissonant qualities. You would think that something was wrong, right, with the music. And then all of a sudden it gets balanced out by this beautiful jazz quartet. And it just comes in and out with these waves of dissonance with the jazz quartet playing this very smooth melody. And at the end of it ends up being the composer wakes up to his own dream in a shock, and you can hear it in the music. And so it's something that we've never really touched before, but it took us a while to get our audience to that point. Yeah. And so we're not having the conversation now with our audience of, I didn't like that. The conversation is, I don't necessarily, it's not necessarily an acquired taste, but I could see why it was a thing.
Yeah.
And that conversation shift has been huge in regards to the community engagement that we've been getting.
Why do you think that is? How did y'all find that niche?
I mean, I think it's, you've got to look at the surrounding areas, right? It's interesting because we, as, in Summerville, right, we have access to Charleston, we have access to North Charleston, we have access to all these other places. So with that, there's actually 4 orchestras in the Tri-County area.
Okay.
And so you have, Charleston Symphony, you have North Charleston Pops, you have the Mount Pleasant Symphony, which is another volunteer group. So we're having
Are we number one?
Of course.
All right.
I'm a little biased, but
I kind of am too, but I just want to put that out there.
Of course. But for us, it becomes, we have to look at ourselves from we are a volunteer orchestra, so we can't perform some of these major works like Mahler and the Wagner and things like that, right? But we also don't want to be a pops orchestra only either, because there is great classical music out there that gets influenced by the pop tunes. So how do we create this essence of like bridging a bunch of gaps together from our community? How do we get people who love James Bond into the same auditorium as people who love Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet?
That's so unique, though, right? It's the diversity of your listeners.
Yes,
and the fact that you guys are very strategic about that and understanding. All right, let's bring people who have totally different listening preferences together,
right,
in one roof, and everyone's happy.
Right.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's such an interesting concept, because you see a lot of times now the movie music, right, with the live scores, the movies with the live film or with the live orchestras in them, and they're great. I mean, I've played in a couple of them, and they're fun to play in. They're fun to
played a movie?
Oh yeah, I've done Elf and Harry Potter. One.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were an elf?
Yes, I've done the Elf movie and I've done the Harry Potter movie.
Are you in the little scrolling thing at the end too?
Yeah, no.
Oh, dang it. But that's so cool, though. Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
But all of that to say, it's like there was this article that came out recently that was like, are we going to do movies with live orchestras actually help build audiences? And the end result was no. Because those audiences are only coming out to the movie. They're not coming out for the continuation of orchestral music. And so then the challenge becomes, how do we convince our audiences of, if you like James Bond, you're going to like this piece, right? If you like Sound of Music, you're going to like this melody that we're performing. And so it's a constant interaction of, if you like this, maybe give this a try. Right. And so therefore, we're not separating the pops and the classical and creating two different audiences. We want to bridge that gap and create a good, wholehearted community with the orchestra music.
That's really cool. And so finding that niche and being unique, and I think makes y'all stand out. That's
Absolutely.
Awesome. You did bring up earlier that you have something coming up this weekend.
Yes.
What we got? What's in the lineup?
Sure. So we the shameless plug. We've got two more performances for this season. The one coming up this weekend, Friday and Saturday, Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony. If you don't
April 4th and 5th.
April 4th and 5th. Yes, thank you. If you don't know anything about Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony, just a very, very quick rundown on this. Shostakovich was living in the Soviet Union time during the time when the regime was starting to get really really popular and starting to really crack down on what was being said and done in the government. And so Shostakovich created this almost comical symphony to say, no regime, you can say whatever you want to, but we as the people are going to stand up, and we're gonna kind of call you out on your on what you're doing, so to speak. And so the whole Fifth Symphony has lots of Western European components in it. You'll hear parts of Beethoven, you'll hear parts of Mahler, you'll hear that. How cool. But it's all written in the context of what a Russian piece sounds like. And so Shostakovich made this piece, and the Russian government was ecstatic at the fact that it was this brilliantly composed piece. Little did they realize that Shostakovich was actually making fun of them in the piece the entire time. And so it's just this really nice underlayer of context in the grand scheme of things. But from a listening point of view and an audience member point of view, there is, I call it the heavy metal of orchestral music. The last movement, the first movement are really, really heavy. They've got a lot of just very attack type of settings. And so you combine that with the second movement, which is this very whimsical, the puppetry type of sounds. And then the third movement is just this lush piece of music. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. Very, very Adagio Barber type of setting. So we're doing that very heavy piece of music, right? But on the flip side, we're starting off the concert with Bernstein's On the Town Overture, so very upbeat type of piece of music. We're doing a medley from The Sound of Music. So cool. And fun fact, this is the 60th anniversary since the movie was made. Oh, and so cool a little connection there. And then we're also doing a Margaret Bonds' Montgomery Variations, which was made for Martin Luther King at the time. But this was before the assassination. So it was all within the time span of Martin Luther King doing his walks and his standing up and all of that. So it's really nice to see that we're adding in a lot of this resistance and resilience into this. But it's sure to be a fun event. And the May concert is almost the exact opposite. We're doing, for the May concert, we're doing cinematic finish. And so we're doing Pirates of the Caribbean. We're doing The Pines of Rome, which is featured in tons of movies throughout. But The Pines of Rome is very classical oriented. Yeah. And then we're bringing in world-renowned violinist Benjamin Baker to perform the Korngold concerto. And Korngold was known for his movie music at the time. So doing a lot of cinematic stuff in May, and that's May 16th and 17th.
All right. And then are the tickets on sale for both still?
Yes, tickets are on sale for both of them.
All right. We'll make sure that's in the bio.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I don't know if I'll make it this weekend, but because it's going to be a crazy weekend here in Summerville,
There's this thing called Flower Town Festival. Yeah,
but I bet you that helps you guys out so much. It does. And so that's going to be exciting. But I would love to come to the May one, so we'll talk
for sure.
That's super cool. And so when is the season? What's the seasons like? You brought up the season. When does season start? When does season finish?
Sure. So seasons usually start in September time. We go from September to May each year. I can't give too many spoilers for next season because we're already pretty much there.
Do we get a little one?
We can.
All right.
So the overall season title this year was The Power of Music. Next year it's going to be called Music for Every Journey.
Ooh, there we go.
For Every Journey. And so you're in for a treat. A lot of really great larger works.
Yeah.
I can't get into too much of that, but I will say it's very standard Summerville Orchestra. We have some really heavy hitters that are nice classics. We're bringing it with some pop tunes in there. And then every now and then we're throwing in a nice piece that you're like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah. I didn't know that existed. Yeah. And so we're going to have a really fun season next year.
How cool is that? So, and the history, and ever since you've been involved, what has been the most popular show you put on?
The holiday show. I mean, the holiday concert. The holiday concert is by far. But it's funny that you mentioned that because orchestras around the country are hurting in regards to season ticket sales, and they're hurting in regards to ticket sales and trying to upkeep with the times.
Why is that it? Why is that?
I really do think that, ever since COVID, the season subscriber is not necessarily there. I mean, I think we can all remember when COVID was a thing, and it was just kind of reevaluation of life and reevaluation of what our needs are. And so post-COVID, a lot of people said, well, I'll just get individual tickets, or I'll just get shows that, when I want to. I don't necessarily want to, be completely, in with the entire season per se. Do we still have them? Absolutely. But I do think it was a major shift in our lifestyle and our thinking
and everything, right?
Right? And so, we're seeing orchestras decline as far as ticket sales, but on the flip side, what we're doing, we continue to have 75 to 80% sold out crowds. And it's like, well, why, let's not change this, because what we're doing is incredibly successful.
So that number right there is a good number.
Absolutely.
That's kind of where you want to be.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah. There are orchestras in this state that have 25 to 30% ticket sales at a concert.
Wow.
And so, when I can say we've got 800 in the crowd of 1,000, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Where do you guys usually perform?
We are at the Summers Corner Performing Arts Center, which is connected to Rawlings Middle School. It's a beautiful facility. I tell people all the time that if you didn't know it was built by a school district, you wouldn't think it was built by a school district, because it's just absolutely beauttle.
Really?
In that
I've
regard.
never been. So
it's a great hall. Really good acoustics. They really did it right over there. There's not a bad seat in the house. You can sit in balcony. You can sit on the main floor. The stage is perfect size for an orchestra, so it really is a great venue to be at.
Do you guys travel? Do you go to different venues?
We don't. I will say we have, for our main orchestra, the 75-piece group, we perform at Summers Corner. Now, when we do smaller chamber group stuff, such as our Encore series, which is at Coastal Coffee Roasters, we'll perform over at Coastal. Okay. We have a string quartet that performs at the Public Works Arts Center. And then our music director, Wojtek, does a music chat at Dorchester County Library. And so that's usually a 7 or 8 part series over there. Now, every now and then we'll do a Beat Beethoven 5K, or we'll do something in the park. So we try to get out there. Again, with the weather being the way it is in South Carolina, we have to take into consideration instrumentation and all that fun stuff. But I'm always going to advocate to build more auditoriums in the area, because we could definitely use them for sure.
Yeah, and so that's true. I was curious. Like, you have a space, but is there space difficulty that y'all are facing? Mm-hmm. And so, are you? Or is it?
No, I mean, I think it's a COVID shift, right? So the funny thing with the Performing Arts Center is that we were planning on being there in the 2019-2020 season, and it just so happened that there was some fire code issues that happened in the fall, which meant we were having to perform at our old place at the at Summerville Baptist Church. And so, we performed October, we performed November, we performed December, and then we got clearance to perform in February of 2020. And we all remember what happened in March of 2020.
Yeah, shoot.
And
what a stressful month,
right? And so, again, the Performing Arts Center it's a beautiful space. Is it a little outside of the area? Yes. I would give a huge shout out to putting some lights on 17 and 17A. That'd be great. But at the same time, our audience is so community impacted that they will come to those performances, even with them being 15-20 minutes outside of the Summerville limits.
Yeah. I mean, I want to get out there. I want to see what the facilities like.
It's beautiful,
and everything like that. Do y'all ever perform in like Hutchinson Square?
We do, yeah. So we perform. We try to perform once every other year or so out in Hutchinson. Funny enough, the orchestra is actually too small for the stage on Hutchinson, so we got to come out all the way to where the concrete or that first block of grass outside of the stages. But we've done that in the past. We'll do a lot of pop shows there. We're trying to get some stuff for the summer, but we all know how hot it is outside. But we are looking into a potential pop series in the summertime time because it could really bring some attraction into the town. We want to partner with people and do all that with that. And July 4th is a great time for good old American pop music.
Yeah, I mean, no promises. This is the first time I'm saying it, but it'd be cool if with the town as a whole, the town can partner with y'all in some way for a show, or Hutchinson working with our Parks and Rec department and putting on an event of some sort. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we have 250th anniversary for America coming up in 26, and so we're already trying to plan for that. We're already saying to ourselves, what can we put in our program for inside the Performing Arts Center, but what can we do outside of the Performing Arts Center that can really showcase celebration for America.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we could brainstorm some ideas, and
we'll make something happen.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of the orchestra, one thing I want to talk about is how people can get involved.
Sure.
And then also the accessibility aspect of the music too, and everything like that. But if someone's listening or watching and they just want to get involved, obviously they going to listen and everything like that, but what if someone wants to perform and play for the orchestra?
Sure.
What does those steps look like?
Yeah, so our inclusion into the orchestra, if you will, for auditionees and for musicians is very simple. If you go online to summervilleorchestra.org, you have the auditions page that you can see all of the rep that is needed to audition. You would just sign up there. You click to sign up, and it's super easy. Our personnel manager and our music director usually have an audition with you one day, and then we make a decision. But what I will say is that we don't typically do what other orchestras do in regards to blind auditions. Because we are a community orchestra, we want to make sure that you are a good fit with our community and the musicians world as well, right? So we actually have a conversation with you and get to know you a little bit more outside of the playing. Because yes, playing good stuff at a good level is needed, but we also want you to be a good person, and we want to make sure that you're going to be a good fit with the group in that regard. And so we really do take that into
a team effort.
It is a team effort. Absolutely.
It's one of the biggest team sports out there.
Absolutely. And if I showed you how many calories I burn every Monday night, you would be shocked. But so we do that audition process, and we usually have 1 or 2 auditions a year. Normally we have one in the fall. I say fall, but it's mid-August-ish, and then we have one in January as well. So those are the 2 best times. If you're coming and you're new into town or you just got here, feel free to give us a shout, and we can make something happen. But yeah, in regards to being involved with the musicians, that would be the route to go with auditions. We do always need volunteers to help with concerts. You do get free tickets if you volunteer to help out with the shows.
Oh, that's cool.
So if you're interested in volunteering, we do have ushering available, and we have a fantastic volunteer coordinator who puts all that together. And if you're interested, if you are new and you have a business, or you're new and coming in with a business, we do tons of community partnerships. Our partnerships really are two-way streets. It's not us holding out hands saying, please give us money. We actually try to create partnerships.
Scratch each other's backs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what a partnership should be. And so we have community partnerships that are available to give marketing and advertising dollars, but to also be recognized. We have a fantastic partnership. Just a quick example. We have a lovely lady. Her name's Beth Bullock. She owns Traditions Italian food, and she just met her in the office one day. She was giving lunch to somebody else, and shout out to Beth, because Beth actually ends up feeding the orchestra every concert, and she does that out of the goodness of her heart.
Oh, that's awesome.
But on the flip side, Beth has done amazing things, and she's actually about to open up a brick and mortar restaurant over in Santee because of the recognition that she's gotten from the orchestra. And so
congratulations, Beth.
Yes, Beth, you're amazing. We love you. And so it's one of those things that it's just like, this is what we can actually do with our businesses and our community and partners.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that you all have the mindset of like, how can we team up with the community and make it better all around, every aspect of it. Yes. That's really cool.
Yes.
That's really cool. Switching gears just a tad.
Sure.
The future.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit about next year.
Mm-hmm.
What does the future hold for Summerville Orchestra? What are some of your big goals, dreams? We want to hear them.
Yeah. So I will say, it's interesting to be in the space that we are, right? When I came on back in 22, we were about half of the budget that we are now. So our budget has 2.5 times in 3 years. And it's crazy to think of that because we are at the point where it's like, how do we keep going based off of what we currently have, right? Our conversations are, do we want to continue to be a volunteer group? Do we want to start expanding into semi-professional land? And then how do we create more awareness? How do we create more community engagement with our programs? How do we get more people involved in the grand sense of it? So we're actually starting our strategic planning process for what we call Vision 2030. And so with Vision 2030, the hope is to achieve so many goals by year 2030 with a focus on strengthening to grow. And so we want to hear from our community. We want to hear from our patrons who have been to every event. We want to hear from people who have never heard of the orchestra before, and this is the first time that they hear of them. We want that community input so we can make the best decisions for the community.
Yeah.
I like to say that the orchestra is a community serving the community in that sense.
Yeah.
Our community of musicians serving the community of Summerville. And so part of that is knowing and wanting to know the information from Summerville itself. So we have a couple of opportunities coming up to get involved in those conversations. Just got some confirmation that we can have a little town hall here at the chamber or council. So we're going to probably do that at the end of April.
Love that.
And then we'll have probably our proposed plan by the end of June ready to go for our start date of July 1st.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So definitely check that out. And if you're interested in getting involved, please reach out because we'd love to have you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of a 5-year outlook and seeing where things are going to go in 5 years, and a lot can happen in 5 years.
Yes, it can.
And we've seen that last 5 years, and so that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in your opinion, is there a part of you that wants to go like semi-professional?
I think there's pros and cons to both.
What are they? I'm just curious.
Sure. So, with a volunteer, we'll start with semi-pro. Semi-pro, obviously you're paying musicians at that point. So your entire budget has to be increased. You have to make sure that you're continuing to get, that you're getting the donations, that you're getting the contributions, and shout out to everybody who has given to the orchestra. It doesn't go unnoticed. But there is conversations in regards to ticket pricing increasing. There's regards to the accessibility that you said. One of the beautiful things about being a volunteer orchestra is that we can keep our costs down and therefore be more accessible to the community. Our costs are going into the venue rental. Our costs are going into the music rental. Obviously there's overhead that we have to pay for, but we're not having to almost double our budget again in order to make a semi-professional group happen. Now, on the flip side, if you get into semi-professional territory, you are able to play larger works. You are able to expand your concerts for a longer amount of time. You are able to do things in less time. So, instead of the seven rehearsals that we typically have, you could probably do them in 4 or 5 and be okay. So it's just it's a completely different outlook on it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not an easy decision. I mean, let's just be frank about that. I think it needs the input of the community.
I love that.
It absolutely needs the input of the musicians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It needs the input of obviously our board and staff, but there's so many different variables that go into play with that. And I don't think that there is a right answer. I think that whatever the decision is the right answer, right? And it's just that we have to be very diligent about making sure that we have everything and understand the pros and cons in order to make that decision going forward.
Yeah. You brought so it's going to be interesting to see where y'all go. I mean, the fact there's pros and cons. I mean, I think whatever decision y'all make will be you guys will be fine. Mm-hmm. It's just what I guess hearing from the community, getting community's feedback, that's so important. The fact that that's kind of leading the way for you is admirable, and I think a lot of our listeners and watchers appreciate that as well. One of the things I completely forgot, I didn't have it noted, but I definitely want to talk about is your musicians. Mm-hmm. I do, as you know, one of my best friends is involved with Summerville Orchestra, and so I heard a little bit, but like, what type of musicians and instruments are in the orchestra? Like, kind of that information. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah. So we, like I said, it's a 75-piece orchestra. We have all 5 string instruments: so violin, viola, cello, bass. There's 2 sections of violin in there, and then we have all of the band instruments. So flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, French horn, trumpet, trombone, and percussion, auxiliary equipment. And then we have piano. We have a pianist who normally plays with us, and then sometimes we'll need a second piano part, like a celeste or something like that. And then every now and then we need a harpist as well. So it really is a full size group. I laugh with our musicians and who they are, because we have everybody from Betty, right? Betty's in her mid 80s ish, and then we have a lovely lady named Pearl who is 14, and Pearl is a heck of a cello player. I mean, she is in it to win it, and so and it's fun to see, because Pearl sits in the cello section, her older sister sits in the violin section, and her mom is one of our team moms that we have for rehearsals, and so it's really a family event that they get to have fun in. And so, but we have everybody we do have professional musicians in the group that are choosing to be volunteers.
That's cool.
We have engineers that are that decided to minor in music when they were going in college. And then we have people who never touched an instrument for 40, 50 years. And then all of a sudden they just wanted to pick it up. And then they said, yeah, I think I could do this and have fun. We have teachers from the school districts involved. We have students from the school districts involved too, which we have both our Summerville Orchestra, and then we have the youth orchestras as well. Most of the youth orchestras are tied with those students, but one of the things we like to kind of teach and kind of get in their mind is that if you are staying in the area, right, there are options to continue to play your instrument outside of education, outside of high school. And so I'll use the bass section, for example. I'm the oldest one by far in our bass section, which is funny to say since I'm 31, but we have 3 college students that all started in high school with the orchestra. And they're at, one's at Trident Tech, one's at CS Charleston Southern, one actually just got a job with Boeing recently.
Oh, wow.
But they also continue to play. And they've told me that if they didn't realize that we weren't here, they would have stopped it after high school. And that's so important, because I don't expect these musicians to be, super talented professional players, but they're giving back to the community in an artistic way. And to me, that is so valuable for what our community represents.
I love that. I love that you're giving our community members and people an opportunity to express themselves, to pursue their hobbies, and to have fun, make connections, build relationships. It's huge.
Yes.
The power in that is can't be even put into words. We talked about my past in music. I also am. This is another thing people don't know about me that you guys are learning. So I'm also a DJ.
Nice.
Not wedding DJ. I'm talking like a kind of electronic DJ.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I've been doing that for a few years. And it's the art of it, right? It's the I can play instruments, so I could play piano and the guitar.
Sure.
Beginner level.
Sure.
But what I do with like my DJing stuff is uniquely mixing 2 different musics, 2 different sounds, and making something beautiful out of it.
Yes.
Which is a totally different art form, but music is so wide ranging. There's so many different aspects to it, and all the different instruments or ways to express yourself via music.
Yes.
So I've always been a huge advocate for y'all. I love what you guys do here for the community. I know here at town, we're all big fans here at Town Hall, and I would really like to try to find a way to work together and partner up, and
absolutely,
from a town, or it makes sense, right?
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Andrew, we're at the kind of the end of our time here, but do you have anything else you want to share for the sake of the conversation?
No, I mean, again, Chris, thanks for having me. And, I think, like I said, April 4th and 5th is the next concert this week. Yep. And then May 16th and 17th is going to be our final one for this season. And then we're on to season 22.
Season 22.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Are we doing anything big for 25?
We're starting to talk about it.
I knew you guys were probably thinking about it already.
Well, it's this is 21, so we just had 20 last year, and 20 is a big deal. Mm-hmm. In the orchestral world, when you get to 20, you've kind of grounded yourself in the community at that point.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, we did a lot of really big stuff for 20. We had our first Jubilee. That was a fundraising event. We had we actually had a world premiere commission for us. Which is called While I Breathe, I Hope, Doom Sparrow Sparrow. And it's absolutely gorgeous music. So, the question is, how do we ramp it up for 25? And so we're starting to have those conversations already about that.
That's cool. I'm excited.
I am too.
I'm excited. I'll be here. I'll be watching.
There you go.
Maybe I'll learn an instrument and get involved.
Hey, there you go. Yes.
I'll have to figure out which one. Well, wait. What's your favorite instrument?
Oh man.
I had to ask that before we.
I love playing the bass. That's my original, but I also really do love a good cello sound.
Cello.
I love a good cello sound.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm back and forth, but I really love a saxophone.
The sax is good. Absolutely. Saxophone's fantastic.
I could listen to a saxophone all day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
It's just.
I've always wanted to try the theremins. If you don't know what that is, look it up. But the theremin, just because I've seen Simon and Garfunkel do the theremin, and I've seen that live, right? And I was like, how do you make that happen? So anyways, it's always been one that I wanted to try.
There's some unique instruments out there, isn't there?
I've seen some funky stuff in my day. Yes.
What? And then it ends up sounding good. You're like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then there's me in my office, so I kind of using my pens,
That's right.
But, so I'm like, I can make an instrument out of everything. But Andrew, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it. This was a great conversation. I say let's bring you on again. I'm putting this on the podcast, so
great.
I'm making that promise to you. I'd love to bring you on again when next season starts. Let's
Absolutely.
talk about the season.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would love to get that scheduled up, but. To our community members, thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast and listening and watching. And we hope you guys take away something today and show up. April 4th, 5th, and then May 16th, 17th, right?
Yes.
Memory, I got it.
There you go.
Show up. Support our Summerville Orchestra because they're an incredible group of people who are making incredible art. So thank you guys. Until next time.
All right.
Awesome.